I'll tell you one team that is not able to conjure up a Hall of Fame quarterback out of thin air is our friend Mike's Cleveland Browns. What is going down in Browntown? That
Yeah,
was an ugly game, and I'll tell you, if you had told me Browns versus Jaguars a week ago, I would have said it's going to be hard to argue with the Browns winning that game. I think that the Jaguars would be the team on their heels or the team trying to get right after that game in Miami. Definitely not. I think all the pressure in the world is on the Browns in this game. They're going into Jacksonville, where historically, Florida is a tough place to play for the teams coming from a colder climate. It's going to be hot and humid. The Jaguars are going to be ready for those weather conditions. But man, regardless of all of that, you still have Deshaun Watson playing quarterback for the Browns. And I don't know that he wants to be the starting quarterback of the Browns right now. I don't know that he wants to play. I mean, you see him after the game putting the loss on the entire team, and you want to ask the guy, it's like, do you want to be the leader of this team?
yeah.
If you're not getting paid $250 million over 5 seasons, would you have any interest in this team doing well? Because I can't say that he would based on how disengaged he seemed. And, it's got to be so frustrating for the Browns. This could be one of the most talented teams in the league. They've got
With a quarterback
talent across the board. And then they should have it with the quarterback too. I mean, you'd think that Deshaun Watson would be the cherry on top of what is an amazing offense and roster, and yet he seems to be the one holding everyone back. So I'm going with the Jaguars in this game. I'm not going to be picking the Browns as long as they've got Deshaun Watson as their quarterback for the foreseeable future. I mean, I just can't. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I think Mike already ethered the Browns. So we don't have to spend too much time going off on them even more. One thing in Deshaun's defense I will bring up is he had 45 pass attempts, 56 dropbacks in week 1. I think that's way too many for him. And ultimately, he is coming off of a shoulder injury, his throwing shoulder. I don't know if he's fully healthy. But ultimately, the big concern is the offensive line. The Browns have always had a strong offensive line. Jedrick Wills is out. Conklin didn't look great. It doesn't look like guys like Batonio and Wyatt Teller want to even block for Deshaun Watson. So I think something that's you seriously have to pay attention to in Browns games this year going forward is the body language. I mean, Amari Cooper looked really mad. He looked really frustrated over the weekend. And ultimately, I mean, you're right. This team is super talented. They're a above average quarterback away from getting to the AFC title game. But they're just stuck. They're stuck in a tough time. I mean, ultimately, I'm going to wait till Jedrick Wills gets back to judge this team. Njoku is out now with an ankle injury. So I do think they're going to struggle this week moving the ball down the field. If they don't find another option at running back until Nick Chubb gets back, I think they're in trouble and they might be behind the 8 ball, especially if Pittsburgh somehow manages to keep racking up wins without a quarterback that we thought they would need this year. So I think they're in obviously the toughest division in the league. So they can't afford to get behind the 8 ball and lose all these games early. And I'm concerned, but I will hope for Jedrick Wills to come back healthy if it's this week or next week. We'll wait on Chubb. We'll see what he looks like when he returns. Still some hope, but you're right. I do have to take Jacksonville. If you want to talk about Jacksonville, there's a lot of positives. My number one takeaway from Jacksonville is Brian Thomas Jr. looks terrific. Looks like a real deep threat. Defensively, they won't have Tyson Campbell. I think that might be something to look out for this weekend, but you're right. I don't know if that matters this week. Maybe for Amari Cooper's targets and his over-under receiving, but yeah, you're right. I got to go Jacksonville, and I'll take Jacksonville to cover the spread -3.
Yeah. And I mean, just one last thing on the Browns is I think they have to play Deshaun Watson. They can't even bench him just based on his contract. They're paying the guy $170 million. Or no, it's no. He's
they just adjusted it, right?
Right. Yeah. They front loaded his signing bonus now, kicking the can further. But if they were to cut this guy, like let's say it got so bad and he kept stinking it up to the point where they had to cut him, they can't even do that. It would be a dead cap hit this season of $173 million. And for reference, the salary cap is $250 million. And $170 million of that would be allocated towards just getting rid of Deshaun Watson. So he's not going anywhere. And he's got a similar cap hit for the next 2 seasons. So I don't know what the Browns are going to do. At some point, you have to prioritize winning. I mean, you can be constrained by the cap all you want, but if this guy is not an NFL quarterback and you can insert a Joe Flacco in there to give you a chance, it's unfortunate that the decision makers have put you in this spot, but you got to adjust and you got to be able to move on. You know, I just after watching the game against the Cowboys are a good team, but coming out like that at home with all the weapons around him, I think it's looking bleak for the Browns when it should be an optimistic season.